Hello everyone, this is Gene with a late night video. It's about 9:40 here in New York City on the last day of 2019. I wasn't planning to make a video today, honestly. I was planning to make a video on January 1st, given that it'll be 2020 officially and all that, but I guess I just wanted to just discuss this topic and just get it off of my chest before I find something else to complain about. So before I get started, I'd like to welcome the newest subscription. I believe a gentleman named Marquis or Marquise. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, but welcome to the channel. I hope you enjoy the content and forgive the spooky, camp lighting. This is what happens when it's nighttime and your light bulbs are awful. So let me get to the topic. So the topic is J Scott Campbell and art. For those who may not be too familiar, J Scott Campbell is a well-known comic artist. There's a bit of infamy surrounding him, especially with the Twitter outrage warriors, due to the fact that he likes to draw women in a very idealized way, very attractive way, and at times very sexy. Now, I will admit that for me, from an aesthetic point of view, I am not a fan of Mr. Campbell's work. I don't think he's a bad artist. It's just for me, in my own personal taste and biases and aesthetics, it just doesn't appeal to me, right? To describe J. Scott Campbell's work, the best thing I would say is that he puts the face of a Bratz doll on the body of a very, very slender woman. He tends to use bodies that are more like, say, you would find on a fashion model. Just very slim, not very muscular. And again, I don't think he's a bad artist. It's just that I don't tend to that sense of aesthetics, and that's no doubt because of my lifelong love and exposure of athletics and sports, and in particular, pro wrestling, where even the skinny girls are still going to be larger than, say, your average Victoria's Secret model and fashion model. So I just think for comic book characters, and again, this is just my perception of his art, I think that for comic book characters, especially ones that are very physically powerful, like, say, Captain Marvel, his sense of art, at least to me, his sense of aesthetics doesn't really get that sense of strength and power across. I look at some of his drawings and I'm like, but how is this character, even though, yes, they have supernatural abilities, so they don't necessarily need to look the part, but I do think that art, and especially art when it comes to, I guess, symbolism or representing something thematically, is important. And the way he draws women, they just don't, to me, they just don't look like they be able to handle the rigors of superhero work. That's just the impression that I get. So I have to say, he's just not the type of comic artist, especially when it comes to drawing women, for me. I lean much more, say, in the Frank Cho camp, right? He draws his women, tends to be very muscular, muscle babe, muscle thick type of thing. If you've ever seen, and I've featured it several times in my videos, that picture of Carol Danvers back when she was Miss Marvel with the American flag hanging behind her, that image, that is like, generally speaking, like my ideal female form for a superhero, especially one that is meant to be very physically strong and powerful. Think Power Girl or She-Hulk or something like that. Right? That's just, again, just my own personal sense of aesthetics and taste. But the reason I bring up J. Scott Campbell is because it seems like, again, and this is not his fault, he finds himself in I wouldn't say a scandal, but I guess you would say he has found himself with people on the internet trying to cancel him, people on Twitter trying to cancel him because he dared to draw a pretty woman. I'm not even joking. Because I was just on this website, because I'm thinking, okay, he's known for doing cheesecake and fan service. He had a calendar, I think, back in 2014 where he took fantasy fairy tale characters like Alice in Wonderland and Cinderella and Belle from Beauty and the Beast and all these other ones. And he did a very pin-up style calendar with them. And if anybody's ever seen pin-up is very sexy in nature, right? It's kind of sexy, kind of playful. So I'm figuring, okay, that's sort of like, I don't want to say haunted him, but people tend to bring that up in their criticisms of him and his supposedly objectifying women. But he didn't do that. It apparently looks like he drew several covers for Captain Marvel #1. I'm not sure yet if the Captain Marvel book is being rebooted for the 100th time at this point, or if he just did covers that he wants to sell. I'm not quite sure what the situation is yet. But I was able to find the images I was finding online on his website, and it's literally just Carol Danvers in her various superhero costumes, in the Captain Marvel outfit, in the black swimsuit Lightning Bolt Miss Marvel outfit, my personal favorite, the 70s Miss Marvel outfit with the partially exposed stomach. Her time is binary. There's one where she's in a flight suit. Here's the thing. The images themselves, and I'm going to leave a link in the video description so you can follow it yourself. The images themselves are not necessarily sexual, right? She's drawn very, very pretty. She's drawn in the J Scott Campbell style, right? So she's certainly going to look good. But there's nothing sexy or seductive or suggestive about any of the poses she is in. It's not like she's on her hands and knees seductively crawling towards somebody or anything. And yet, you have the Twitterati again trying to cancel the man because he dared to draw an attractive superhero, or rather, I say in attractive superheroine, as an attractive superheroine. It just does not make sense to me. Just the intensity, just the 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 approach that the Twitterati have when it comes to male artists who draw a female in a way they somehow deem bad. They go beyond where I'm at, which is just, okay, not really to my sense of taste, not really to my sense of aesthetics, but you do you, which is where I generally try to leave these things. But they go from just personal distaste or dislike to, we must cancel him, we must accuse him of misogyny, or say that all male artists are just objectifying women, or the popular one is, where are her organs? Where are her organs? Now keep in mind, this is Carol Danvers, the half alien. Remember they rebooted her backstory earlier this year. So we're talking about the half alien who for decades has been able to fly into space and sit on the moon like it's her bed in her apartment, with no spacesuit, no breathing apparatus, nothing to protect her from freezing to death upon going into space or dying of lack of air. But suddenly, where are her organs? Is the big thing we have to worry about. They seem to forget that she's A, not real, and B, she's a superhero, a superheroine. Prefix being super, right? If something is super, it is usually above, well above the norm, right? Supersize me, beyond the norm. Supermodel, exceptionally attractive, beyond the norm. I just can't wrap my head around it. And this is not the first time male artists in general in 2019 have gotten in trouble for daring to draw women as attractive. I did a video on this picture a few months ago of Medusa, and then there was one actually involving Captain Marvel. It was from a different artist. I heard the story. I didn't get around to covering it, but basically this one artist had drawn her in a very hyper feminine, curvaceous style, and one picture honestly had her dressed like a stripper. Had her dressed like a stripper, and people online were just losing their minds. I personally found the stripper-looking photo very funny because her proportions were just so exaggerated, especially her chest. Honestly, it just made me laugh. It was so damn silly. It just made me laugh, which I think was the good response because the artists themselves said that that particular picture was just for fun. And yet, you had these people trying to cancel that artist. They've been trying to cancel J Scott Campbell and any male artist who dares make a woman look beautiful and idealized. And what drives me crazy about this, aside from everything I've mentioned thus far, instead of them just looking at it going, not for me, and then just walking away, or I guess clicking away, I came across an article from, I think it was the Mary Sue, a few days ago. I will admit, this article was a bit old. I think it was in 2018 or something. But interestingly enough, it was talking about Gail Simone. It was talking about Gail Simone and her time, I think, on Birds of Prey, way back when, in the early 2000s. And apparently she had received criticism at the time of including male beefcake characters like Nightwing just because, she finds him sexy or whatever it is. My whole thing was, I have seen online these Twitterati type people go crazy over Nightwing, right? If you've ever seen Dick Grayson as Nightwing, you've no doubt know that he has a very gymnast-like body, right? So he's very muscular, but there's also I don't want to say slim, because he's not slim, but I guess just his very fluid sense to his body, if that makes any sense, right? He's very muscular, but he's not overly bulky, right? It's very different than that kind of like stout power that like Batman has in his character design. There was just much more of a fluidity to Dick Grayson's the way his body is drawn and his character design in general as Nightwing. And there's always particular attention paid to in depictions of him to his derriere. Let's just be honest. He has a nice butt. That's sort of like his defining physical feature. You know what? I have no issue with that. If they want that to be the physical feature on him that stands out, fine. That's okay. Plenty of people have physical features on them that stand out. In the Mortal Kombat games, Sub-Zero stands out because he has a scar over his eye. Batwing, sorry, not Batwing. Nightwing has a nice derriere. Everybody needs something. But what drives me crazy about this is that these Twitterati types will be so thirsty online and openly, not just appreciate, but openly lust after a fictional male character. I mean, like, I sometimes wonder if they literally turn into the like cartoon wolf that has their tongue hanging out, like, that type of thing, the painting dog. They will do that openly online, objectify men or male characters or male athletes without a care in the world, without a criticism in the world. But the moment a male artist has the nerve to actually draw a woman as attractive, or rather I should say exceptionally attractive, then he's a misogynist, then he's a sexist, then it's, where are her organs? And it's like, why can't you just let things be? Why can't you just let things be? I just can't understand cancel culture and their need to destroy anything they don't like. Why can't they just let it be? J Scott Campbell's not hurting anybody with his art. And again, I'm not saying you have to like it. I don't like it. I started out the first 5 minutes of this video saying why I don't like his particular art style. But I'm not going to try to cancel the man and get him kicked off Twitter or accuse him of being a sexist and a misogynist because he draws female characters in a way that I personally don't find appealing. I just accept that my sense of aesthetics is different than his, and I move on. I check out art from artists I do like Frank Cho, like John Byrne, like, I think it was John Romita Sr.? or Junior. One of them worked on the X-Men comics back in the 80s. It might have been Senior, but I remember there's this one issue of an X-Men comic where I swear Mystique is doing like the power walk of life through like a fair. And there's just so much power and just authority in that image. I was like, go Mystique, you go. She then ended up murdering Wolverine, and then I got very upset. But at least for that panel, I was like, girl, you go. But anyway, that's the video. Just me rambling about art and why the SJWs just can't seem to leave. They just can't seem to quit J Scott Campbell. They always want to jump down his throat or jump on his back the moment he dares draw a woman. It's like they're like bloodhounds. It's like, is he drawing something? Is it female? Attack! Let the man be. Let the man be. He's not hurting anybody. His depiction of women is not hurting anybody. You know what's hurting women in comics? Women like Gail Simone, whose dialogue just, she can't write dialogue to save her life, and I'm going to be doing a video about that. Women like Gail Simone hurt women in comics. Women like Hope Larson, because she can't write a story, hurt women in comics. But women like Kelly Thompson, who literally can't seem to write anything outside of Gambit and Rogue, outside of Mr. and Mrs. X. I don't think that's too great either, but this is better than the Captain Marvel run that I read. Those are the women. And those are the women. Margaret Stahl, who, I mean, I have a review of like the last issue of the Captain Marvel, Life of Captain Marvel miniseries, and I ranted and raved the whole live long day, because so much that was going on in that issue didn't make sense. Those are the women who are hurting women in comics. Women who cannot tell good stories and who keep getting assigned to these prominent female characters because they are female and nothing else. That's what's hurting women in comics. Not a man who likes to draw female heroines as fashion models and Bratz dolls. But anyway, that's the vid. Let me know what you think, and I'll come out with the Gail Simone dialogue video. Hopefully within the week. I got some stuff to do. Got to get back to work and all that. But so I guess you can consider this either the last video of 2019 or the first video of 2020, however you want to take it. I consider it kind of both. But that's the vid. And for those of you who are already in 2020, welcome to the new year. Tell us what it's like. We still have about 2 more hours here in New York City. So I will see y'all around, and have a fun new year if you're out partying or whatever. And may the new year be may it bless us all, I guess is the best way to put it. I will see y'all around. Bye.